you can start, the first bit we're going to do is breathing. You can do it standing if you want to do it standing, or you can do it seated if you want to do it seated. Now, I always tell you to take your comfortable seat, whether that be on your knees or cross-legged or with your feet out in front. But one of the things I wanted to think about this evening is, depending on your anatomy, you might find some ways to sit easier than others. So if you are doing the breathing exercises sat, for me, cross-legged, I really struggle to have a straight spine in cross-legged because my hips are quite tight. So you can see that I'm a little bit rounded through my shoulders, and it takes a lot of effort for me to squeeze my middle part of my back forwards in order to stay up straight. And then I'm not sitting very naturally. I've got a lot of compression in my hips, and basically I'm really having to use my muscles to hold me in that position. So it's not a very comfortable seat at all. And what I really need to do is sit on a cushion or a block so that I can then lower my knees and give myself more space in the hips. And then without really having to put any effort in at all, I can keep my back up nice and straight. Now, because my hips prefer to turn inwards rather than outwards, I find it really, really comfortable to sit on my knees because that's how I sit if I'm sat on the floor anyway. But once again, if you sit astride a bolster or a cushion or a couple of blocks, that also allows your back to just honour the natural curves of your spine without having to put any effort into it. So find where is the most comfortable for you. And as I said, you can do it standing as well if you prefer. And then we'll do a few breaths. So we'll start with block breath. So starting literally by inhaling the arms up in front of you for a count of 4. We then hold the breath in for the count of 4. We then exhale the breath out as we move the arms out to the sides for a count of 4. And then hold the breath out at the bottom for a count of 4. So in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, in, hold, out, hold, in, hold, out, hold, in, hold, out, hold. Excellent. Then this time, inhale the arms up above you, and then exhale, turn towards the left with the right hand coming forward and the left hand going behind you. If you've got a bolster, you can also push against the back of the bolster to increase the twist. Inhale back up to centre, and then exhale, twist around towards the right. Inhale through centre, exhale, twist left. Inhale through centre, exhale, twist right. Inhale through centre, exhale, twist. Inhale through centre, exhale, twist. 2 more each side. Inhale through centre, Exhale, twist. Inhale through center. Exhale, twist. Inhale through center. Exhale, twist. Last one. Inhale through center. Exhale, twist. And then coming back up to center. This time we drop the left hand down towards the floor and reach over with the right. Take a nice big inhale here. Then on the exhale, move over to the other side. Take an inhale as you stretch. Then on the exhale, move over. Inhale to stretch, really reaching through those fingertips. Exhale to move over to the other side. Inhale, really stretch. Keep that armpit open to the ceiling. Exhale, moving it over. Inhale, stretch. Exhale, move it over. Inhale, stretch. Exhale, move it over. Inhale, stretch. Exhale, move it over. One more each side. So exhale to move it over. Inhale, really stretch through those fingertips, really sit down through the right sit bone. Exhale, over to the side. Nice big inhale. And then come back to center. And then we will come up onto our feet. So moving the bolster out of the way for a minute, coming to the tops of our mats. Now, if you like to use blocks, you can have the blocks ready at the front of your mat, 2 blocks, one for each hand. So from here, really ground down through the feet. Feet can be hip width apart or feet together if that's more comfortable for your hips. And then align your whole body above your ankles. So the knees are directly above the ankles, hips directly above your knees. Pelvis is in a neutral position, so we're not sticking our bum out and we're not tucking our tailbone under either, somewhere neutral. Really lift up through the core, shoulders are relaxed, shoulder blades back and down, hands face forwards, palms face forwards, and then balance the head on top. Really feel the feet on the ground. Really notice where your weight is distributed through the feet. And find a real sweet spot where you're really evenly over your feet. And then inhale the arms up above you, looking up towards the ceiling, reaching up. And then exhale, folding forwards, using the blocks if you want to. Bending the knees a lot, let the upper body flop over the legs. Then inhale, halfway lift, long back, long neck. And then exhale, fold. Removing the hands from the blocks if you're using them. Step the left leg back and then step the right leg back. Bring the knees down to the floor, take the chest and the chin down to the floor, and then scoot forwards into cobra pose. So really stretch the chest forwards and let the shoulders relax down the back. Exhale back down to the mat, tuck the toes, take the hips back towards the heels and press it up into a downward facing dog. It's our first dog of the day. So maybe inhale up into the tiptoes and then encourage the heels down to the floor. Maybe have a wiggle through your shoulders or through the hips. Maybe stretching through the side body if that feels good. Move in whatever way your body feels like it wants to move this evening. And then looking forward, step forward with the left foot, step forward with the right foot. Inhale into a halfway lift, using the blocks if you want to. And then exhale, fold. Then inhale, roll the body all the way up to the top, reaching up, looking up. And then exhale, hands back to heart center, and hopefully your whole body should be stacked in the way that we started. Inhale, arms up, reaching up, looking up. Exhale, folding forwards, using the blocks if you want to. Inhale, halfway lift, long back, long neck. Exhale, fold, take the hands off the blocks. Right leg leads this time, followed by the left. Take the knees down, take the chest and the chin down, and then scoot forward into your cobra pose. Exhale back down to the mat, tuck the toes, take the hips back towards the heels and press it up to your downward facing dog. 3 deep breaths in dog this time. Inhale, stretch it up onto your tiptoes. Exhale, encourage the heels towards the floor. Inhale up onto the tiptoes. Exhale, encourage the heels down. Inhale up onto your tiptoes. Exhale, encourage the heels back down. Then looking forward, step forward with the right foot, step forward with the left foot. Exhale, fold. Nice big bend in the knees. Inhale, halfway lift, using the blocks if you want to. Exhale, fold. Inhale, bring it all the way up to the top, reaching up, looking up. Exhale, hands back to heart center. Good. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, fold forward. Nice big bend in the knees. Inhale, halfway lift, long back, long neck. This time, step the left foot back, drop the knee down. And then come up so your shoulders are above your hips. We'll take one of the blocks, if you have them to hand, and place it on its end next to the right hip on the floor. So stretching into the psoas muscle. So to start with, tuck the tailbone under, so we've lengthened down the front of the left thigh. Then take your right hand to the right block and stretch the left arm up and over. And that will probably stretch you somewhere down the left side of the body. Maybe into the hip, maybe further around towards the side. Depends where your tight spots are. If you didn't have a block, you can always just bring your hand to your hip or reach your fingertips down towards the floor, whatever feels more stable. And you can play around with the positioning of the block as to what's most comfortable for you. One more breath here. And then come back up to center, move the block out the way, place the hands down to frame the front foot, tuck the back toes and step it back to plank. From plank, either come down through knees, chest, chin, or take the weight forward and come down through chaturanga. And then into your cobra, or if you did chaturanga, into your up dog. Really stretch the chest forwards, relax the shoulders down the back. And then exhale back down to the mat. Tuck the toes, take the hips back and up into your downward facing dog. Float the left leg up towards the ceiling. Bend at the knee, open the hip, and really stretch through those deep core muscles. Trying to reach those left toes over your back as if you're trying to tickle your right shoulder blade. And then swing that left foot forwards, giving it a little tug if you need so it comes between the hands, and drop the back knee and then come back up on this side. So from here you'll need your block if you're using it on the floor on its end near your left hip. If you're not using the block, then just bring your left hand to your left hip. First of all, tuck that tailbone under, so we've really lengthened down the front of the thigh. And then reaching for the block with the left hand, take the right hand up and over. Just playing with positioning of the block to get the best stretch you can. Somewhere down the right side of the body, maybe into the hip, maybe down the front of the quad, front of the thigh. And just have a couple of breaths there. Just notice whether one side's easier than the other. And then coming back up through centre, take the block to the front of the mat, frame the front foot, tuck the back toes, lift up the knee and step it forward into your forward fold. On your next inhale, halfway lift, long back, long neck, and then exhale, fold. And then inhale, take it all the way up to the top, reaching up, looking up. And then exhale, hands to heart center. Beautiful. Okay, so this one's going to be a twisty one. So inhaling, arms up. Exhale, folding forwards. Nice big bend in the knees. Inhale, halfway lift, long back, long neck. Exhale, fold. Take the right foot back. Keep the right hand on the mat. If you want to use a block, bring the block into the same place your hand would be, and just rest your hand on the block. And then keeping the hips as directly facing forward as you can, lift the left arm up towards the ceiling, and then gently twist through the spine, but keep those hips forward facing. Just have a couple of breaths there, squeezing the inner thighs together. If this feels too unbalanced, you can always drop your back knee, or you can keep it raised, entirely up to you. Reach those left fingertips up towards the ceiling. One more breath here. And then float that left arm down to the inside edge of the front foot. And spin on the back foot until you drop the heel. So we're coming into warrior two legs. And then place that left hand on the block on the inside edge of the front foot. And then bring your right hand to your right hip. And get really comfortable first. So really ground down through the feet. Hips have opened up towards the side now. And then we open the right hand up towards the ceiling. If that causes too much compression in the front hip, you can straighten the front leg. And try and lift the torso up and away from the hips. Beautiful. Couple of breaths here. Then bend back into that front knee if you'd straightened the leg. Windmill the hand down. Twist onto the toes of the back foot to get ready for our vinyasa. Hands come down to the mat. Step that front leg back to plank. Then either work through your knees, chest, chin, cobra, or come down through chaturanga into your upward facing dog. In upward dog, make sure the legs are engaged, the knees pop up off the floor. In both cases, stretch that chest forwards, relax the shoulders down away from the ears, tuck the tailbone to take any pressure out of the lower back. Then coming back down to the mat, tuck the toes, take the hips back towards the heels, maybe have a moment in child's pose, and then press it up into downward facing dog. Have a little wiggle and a jiggle here in downward facing dog. And then float that right leg up behind you, bend at the knee, open the hip, and really stretch those deep core muscles on the other side. So stretching those toes over the back as if you were trying to tickle the back of your left shoulder. Really stretching up. And then float that foot forwards, giving it a little tug if you need until it's between the hands. Bring your block in, if you're using your block, to the inside of the front foot. Start with the left hand on the block, keeping those hips facing forwards. Open the right arm up towards the ceiling. Keeping those hips facing forwards, then twist through the spine. Really squeezing those inner thighs towards one another to keep the hips as level as you can. Good. Couple more breaths here. And then bring that hand, the right hand that's up towards the ceiling, bring it down and switch it with the hand that's on the block or the floor. Drop the back heel down, so we're now in warrior two legs, and twist the hips out towards the side of your mat. Then you can lift your left arm up towards the ceiling. Try and lift your torso up and away from your pelvis to give you room in your hips, Any compression in the front hip, you can always straighten the front leg if that feels more comfortable. And then your gaze can either be down towards the block or up towards the top thumb, whatever is most comfortable in your neck. One more breath here. Then windmill that hand down to the mat. Twist onto the toes of the back foot and bring the hips back so they're facing the front of the mat. Move the block out the way and then step that back foot forward so we come back into our forward fold. Nice big bend in the knees. Inhale, halfway lift, long back, long neck. And then exhale, fold. Then inhale, roll yourself all the way up to the top, reaching up, looking up. And then exhale, hands back to heart center. Good. Okay, we're going to be moving on the next one through a few little reps from here to there. So I'll talk you through as we go. If you find that you have a lot of pressure in your wrists, if you're doing lots of downward dogs or lots of planks, then sometimes being on blocks, even just by having your fingers over one side and your thumb over the other side, kind of like that, can sometimes take the pressure out of your wrists. So if you want to use blocks, then feel free to do so. So from the tops of our mats, really grounding down through our feet. Inhale, arms up, looking up. Maybe interlace the hands and stretch back into a baby back bend, really pulling the core tummy muscles in to support the lower back. And then exhale, pull the tummy muscles in, fold forward, bending the knees a lot. Inhale, halfway lift, and then exhale, fold. Then before we go back, take your hands behind your back, interlace the fingers, press them away from you, and then let them fall down to really stretch through the shoulders and the upper back. Just have a couple of breaths here. And you can either have your torso supported by your thighs, or you can inhale and stretch the legs out, exhale, bend the knees and support the torso. So play around with wherever you want to be there. And then bring those hands back and slide them down to the floor. To start with, step back into a downward facing dog. Really stretching the chest through towards the thighs. Really feeling happy in your downward facing dog. So the back is nice and long with a little bit of bounce in it. We're not jamming any of our joints anywhere. The knees can be a little bit bent. Then working with the breath, take a nice big inhale in downward dog. And then exhale, lower the hips down into plank pose, adjusting the length of your stance if you need to. Inhale, back up into your downward facing dog. Exhale, bring it forwards into plank pose. Hips down nice and low, really make those shoulders strong. Inhale, back up into downward facing dog. And then exhale, bring it forwards into plank pose. Good. Inhale it back. Exhale forward into plank. That's 4. One more. Inhale it up into your downward facing dog. And then exhale it forwards into your plank pose. Inhale, take it back up into downward facing dog. Bring your knees down to the mat. Take a moment in child's pose. So once you've had a few breaths in child's pose, we're going to come into beast. So beast is like tabletop pose, except your toes are tucked under and your knees are a couple of inches off the floor. Okay, so start by really making sure that if you have a lot of compression in your wrists, that your hands are slightly forwards of your shoulders. Otherwise your hands can be directly below your shoulders. Really pull the core muscles in, really make the tummy strong. Head can be nice and relaxed, neck can be long. Take a nice big inhale. On the exhale, pull the tummy muscles in, press down through the toes and just lift those knees to hover. And we're going to hold here for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Then press it up into your downward facing dog. Take a nice big inhale in downward facing dog. Pull the tummy muscles in nice and tight, and then exhale back down into beast for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale it back up into downward facing dog. We're going to do one more set of 10 holding beast. So take a nice big inhale, pull those tummy muscles in, then exhale those knees down towards the mat, hovering just above the mat for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let the knees come down, untuck the toes and take it back into child's pose. And have 3 really deep breaths in child's pose. And then coming back up, the next little drill is going from loaded beast to beast. So we're familiar with beast now, with the knees hovering just off the floor. Loaded beast, we take the hips back as far as we can. So the knees are still hovering. We bring it forwards into beast, and then we take it back to loaded beast. Bring it forwards into beast, and then take it back into loaded beast. So come into tabletop to start with. If you need to have a little squidge out of the wrists, have a little squidge out of the wrists before we do this next one. And we're going to do 10. Okay, so first of all, nice big inhale in your tabletop, tuck your toes. On your exhale, pull the tummy muscles in and go up into beast. Take a nice big inhale, go back to loaded beast. Exhale forward into beast. 1. Inhale back. Exhale forward. 2. Keeping those knees up throughout. Exhale back. Come forwards. I think I got my inhales and exhales wrong. That's 3. Take it back. Bring it forwards for 4. Take it back. Bring it forwards for 5. Take it back. Bring it forwards for 6. Take it back. Bring it forwards for 7. We're nearly there. Take it back. Bring it forwards for 8. Take it back. Bring it forwards for 9. Last one, you've got it. Take it back. Bring it forwards for 10. Good. Take the knees down. Move the blocks out of the way if you have them there. And then roll yourself down onto your tummy, onto your mats. Squidging the heels in towards your bum. If you can reach your feet and just squeeze them in to stretch out down the front of the quads, down the front of the thighs. Then reach around towards your feet and squeeze them in. We can do them one at a time. Or just literally squeeze them in if you can't reach. Couple more breaths here. Then release those legs off. Move any paraphernalia out of the way. Start with the arms. Well, you have different options here, okay? So we're going to do 10 lifts using our middle and upper back. So for this one, our legs are nice and strong. Our toes are pressing in towards the floor. You can either have your hands either side, just underneath your shoulders. You could have your hands out towards the back, fingers pointing down towards your toes. Or you can have your arms up above your head. It really depends how much you want to work. So if your hands are back towards your feet, the work is going to come more from the lower back. If your hands are shoulder level, then the work is going to come from the lower and the middle back. If your arms are above your head, then the work is going to go from your whole back. So essentially, we're going to find our comfortable position. We're going to take a nice big inhale. On the exhale, pull your tummy muscles in. Make sure your neck is nice and long. Press your toes into the mat so the legs are engaged. Pick your arm position and then lift for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Pull those tummy muscles in. 7, 8, 9, 10. Good work. One hand on top of the other. Rest your forehead on top. And then completely relax everything onto the mat. Make it as heavy as you can. Maybe rolling through the hips if that feels good for your back. Just wiggling from side to side. Then when you're ready, take your hands back into your preferred arm position. We're doing 3 sets of 10 here, so you can always move them around if you want. And then for the next set, take a nice big inhale. On the exhale, pull the tummy muscles in and press your toes into the mat. And then lift for 1, 2, 3, 4, keep breathing, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Then bring one hand on top of the other, forehead on top, and completely relax and release everything onto the mat. Okay, last set of 10. So take a nice big inhale. Take your hands into their preferred position. On your exhale, pull your tummy muscles in, press your toes into the mat, and then lift for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Excellent. Now this time, bring your hands under your shoulders. Press yourself up through tabletop and come over into child's pose. So we're really stretching our back from end to end. We've just been working it quite hard. If you want to have more of a restorative stretch, then grab your bolster, pop it between your knees, and then do your child's pose over your bolster, completely relaxing onto the bolster. Trying to lengthen your fingers forward as your hips go back towards your heels. If you want more of an active pose, if you feel like you actively want to stretch your back, then bring your blocks out towards the tops of your mat. And then reach your hands over your blocks and then take your head down towards the mat. So you want your wrists to be past the blocks. This will probably, you'll feel a stretch somewhere under your arm or into your armpit maybe. So it's a more of an active child's pose. So pick whichever one you fancy this evening. And take 3 deep breaths here. So we're really trying to lengthen the back through having that child's pose. Now we're going to try and open it up. So we're actually going to move into a restorative pose. If you only have bricks, then place the bricks end to end so that they're in a long line and they're down low. If you have a bolster, then that will probably be more comfortable, or a rolled up blanket. Put the bolster down the length of your mat. We're turning around onto our backs. Get the bolster to right at the base of the spine, and then lay yourself down over the bolster. You can do this with 2 blocks, like I said, end to end if you don't have a bolster. Just place the blocks end to end. You'll probably want them a little bit further away from your spine, and then lay yourself down over the blocks. Both poses do the same, we're just using different props, but it allows your spine to open out to the sides and be completely supported by whatever is beneath you. So get yourself really comfortable in this pose. It's basically fish pose. So if you did want an active version as opposed to a restorative version, then you bring your fingers towards your bum, place your hands and then your elbows down on the mat, and then lastly your head comes down onto the mat as well, if you want an active version. So in the active version, your hands end up being beneath your bum and you're really trying to stretch the rib cage up towards the ceiling. Lots and lots of options, there's always something to do. And then whichever one you've chosen, you can either keep your legs out long, you can bring them into reclined butterflies, the soles of the feet are together and the knees are out to the side. Or you can be in constructive rest, so the soles of the feet are on the floor and the knees roll in. Whatever feels most comfortable and whatever feels like it serves you best today. And then just have 10 really deep breaths in whatever pose you have chosen. Then wherever you've wandered off to, bring your awareness back to yourself on your mat. Use your elbows and maybe your hands to help push you back up to seated, and move the bolster or the blocks out of the way. Fabulous. Okay, coming round into a wide leg seated position. Now, if you can have your spine up nice and tall without there being any pressure in your hips or you're forcing yourself forwards, then that's fabulous. But if it's more comfortable for you to have a bolster underneath your hips or a block, then equally feel free to do that too. So once you've got yourself nice and comfortable, to start with, we inhale the arms up above our heads. And then as you exhale, lean it over to one side, keeping both arms up. So we're really having to use our core here to hold us here. Feeling the stretch down the side of the body, but also feeling the strength in your core muscles. Inhale back up to center, and then exhale over to the other side. Really ground down through those sit bones. Really use those core muscles to stretch and also be strong. Good, bring it back up to center. Take a nice big inhale at center. Exhale one way. Holding it there, taking a couple of breaths there. Really keeping that core nice and strong. Back through center, and then take it the other way. Then come up through center, and this time exhale the hands down in front of you and only roll as far as is comfortable for you. And just have a couple of breaths there, really stretching out through the legs, whether that gets you down the back or whether it gets you down your inner thighs or maybe into the backs of your knees. Just notice where your tight spots are. And then flex the feet, really engage the legs and see if that gives you any more space. Couple more breaths here. And then walk your way back up to seated. So from here, bring one foot in. So bring the left foot in. Sitting up nice and tall. Turn around towards the left, using your hand on your thigh to maybe give you more leverage into a seated half twist. And then come back through center. Take the left hand down towards the mat and then lift up the heels and stretch the right arm, sorry, the hips, not the heels. And then stretch the right arm over to really get a long stretch from the toes all the way to the fingertips. And then sit the hips back down. Now I've learned what they're called. And switch the legs to the other side. So the right leg comes in and the left leg goes out long. Starting with a twist, so sitting up nice and tall, take a nice big inhale, and on the exhale, twist around towards the right, using your hand as leverage on your thigh. Looking over the right shoulder. Taking a couple of breaths there. And then coming back to center, take the right hand down towards the mat, really ground down through the heel of the left foot and lift the hips and stretch that left arm over. Getting a really good stretch from the fingertips all the way down towards your toes. Beautiful. And then coming back down. So moving onto our mats, we'll just do one more to fire up the core. And you can use a block for this, or you can use your bolster, whatever you have to hand. I'm going to do it with the bolster so you can see more easily what I'm up to. So you want to support your lower back with the block or the bolster. So my shoulders are down on the floor and the block or the bolster is right below my coccyx bone and the back of my pelvis. So my I feel really, really sound and supported below my hips. I'm going to bring my fingers just to the inside of my hip bones so I can feel my lower abs working. I'm then going to bring both feet up so the shins are parallel to the ceiling. From here, really pull those lower muscles in. Feel those lower abs contract underneath your fingertips. Take a nice big inhale, and on an exhale, lower the right toes down towards the floor, keeping the leg in its right angle shape. And then bring it back up again, really squeezing those lower belly muscles. Then take the other leg, toes down towards the floor, and then lift it back up again. So take a nice big inhale, exhale down the left leg, bring it back up. Nice big inhale, exhale down the left leg, and bring it back up. So we're really engaging those lower abs. Nice big inhale, exhale lower right, inhale it back up, exhale lower left, inhale it back up, exhale lower right, inhale it back up, exhale lower left, inhale it back up. Either do one more each side or take both legs down as far as you can without arching your spine. So really engage those lower abs and then squeeze them back up. Exhale them down and squeeze them back up. Hug the knees into your tummy. Maybe circling through the hips if that feels good. Taking it one way, taking it the other way. And then take both legs up towards the ceiling. Have those fingertips on the lower abs once more. Take a nice big inhale. And this time, exhale the legs out to the sides, exhaling them as wide as you can. And then really feel your abs pull in as you squeeze them back together again. So inhale them out to the sides. And then exhale, squeeze them back in again. Inhale out to the sides. Exhale, squeeze them back in. 3 more. Inhaling out to the sides. Exhale, squeeze them in. Inhale out to the sides. Exhale, squeeze them in. Last one. Inhaling out to the side. Exhale, squeeze them in. Keeping your hands on those lower abs, really feeling them engage, keeping that lower back safe. Point the toes of both legs and then slowly lower the right leg as far as you can without arching your back. And then squeeze the lower abs and squeeze that leg back up until your toes are pointing to the ceiling. Then take the left leg, really squeezing those lower abs, keeping that lower back neutral. Take the leg as low as you can and then squeeze those muscles to squeeze that leg back up again. Good, one more each side. Take the right leg down, nice and slowly. Really squeeze those tummy muscles to keep the lower back neutral and squeeze those toes back up towards the ceiling. Other leg, nice and slowly down it goes. And then squeeze it back up. And then both legs, not going so far this time because we want to keep that lower back safe. We want to keep the back neutral. Take it as far as you can and then really squeeze those tummy muscles to come all the way back up. Beautiful. Then drop the feet down to the floor, lift up the hips and move the bolster out the way for a moment. So feet stay on the floor, arms down by your sides now. We'll do a few rounds of moving bridge. So as we inhale, we peel the back up off the floor and we take our arms up above our heads. Really lifting the hips as high as we can at the top. And then exhale, roll the back down onto the floor and bring the hands back down until they are on the mat by your hips. So inhale, lifting up, arms come up, hips go up, back goes up, squeeze at the top. And then exhale it back down, rolling that spine back down, bringing those arms back down, tailbone goes down last. Inhale to lift it up, peeling that back off the floor, lifting those arms up above the head. And then exhale, roll it all back down again. Good, one more. Inhaling up, really lifting those hips, lifting the spine, lifting the arms, lifting those hips as high as you can. Squeeze the inner thighs, squeeze the glutes. And then exhale, roll the back down, bring the arms back down by the sides of the mat. Good. Okay, whichever pose you fancy doing, whatever floor pose you fancy doing, we've obviously been moving the spine in all its natural directions. Forward bends, backward bends, twisting left, twisting right, lateral twists left, side twists to the right. So do whatever pose you fancy. If you fancy doing a twist, do a twist. If you fancy doing a supported bridge, where you literally have the bolster or the blocks underneath your hips, and you just relax in supported bridge, then feel free to do that. If you'd like to do legs up the wall on the bolster, then do legs up the wall on a bolster. If you want to do something more active, you want to do shoulder stand or flower pose or happy baby, or you'd rather do banana asana if you want to do a side bend, or maybe you want to jump up onto your feet and bust out a peacock pose. Whatever you fancy doing. If you're doing a two-sided pose, and move into the left side now and take 3 really deep breaths. Then if you're doing a left side and a right side, gradually move out of your left side very carefully and gently and move into your right side. If you're doing a singular pose, you can either stay where you are or you can choose another one for the next few breaths. It's entirely up to you what you fancy. And then take 3 deep breaths in that pose. And then very gently and carefully come out of whatever pose you were in. Gradually make your way up to seated. If you have your bolster, bring it back to the centre of the mat. If you don't have a bolster, you can use your 2 blocks end to end or a rolled up blanket, and then just move onto your hip. So with your knees and your legs tucked underneath you. And then bring your hands one either side of the bolster, and gradually lay your spine down over the bolster. You can interlace your fingers around the top if that feels comfortable. And then you can either have your head the same way, or if you want to increase the twist, take your head that other way. And then take 6 deep breaths on your bolster or your blocks or your blanket. You can even do this on the floor as well. Once you've done your 6 breaths, lift your head, place your hands either side of the bolster and use them to push yourself back up, and then we'll move to the other side. So you can just slip around to the other side on your mat. I'm just going to go the other way so I can still look at the computer. So the bolster comes to your hip bone, your legs are tucked underneath. Place one hand either side of the bolster and then lay yourself down onto the bolster. Your head can either be the same way, or if you want to increase the twist, take your head the other way. Then have 6 deep breaths. Then when you've done your 6 deep breaths, lift your head. Use your hands to walk yourself back up again. And we will come into final Savasana. So you have lots of choices tonight. You can either simply lay on your mat in Savasana. If you want a slightly supported Savasana, then you can bring the bolster underneath your knees and just lay back in Savasana with the bolster under your knees. If you'd like more of a restorative pose, then you can go for restorative fish, which we did earlier in class briefly, with the bolster behind your back. And if you have a bolster and blocks, then you could be really luxurious. Bring your feet into butterfly pose and support your thighs with the 2 blocks. Whatever you fancy, get yourself really comfortable. If you have a blanket to hand and you want to throw a blanket over yourself as well, feel free. Get your body completely comfortable on your mat. Make any final adjustments to your clothes or wiggle around on your equipment until you're really super comfortable. And then let everything be really heavy. The feet are heavy. The lower legs, the calves and the shins are heavy. Your kneecap and your knees, back of the knees are heavy. Your upper legs are heavy. The thighs, the hamstrings, inner thighs, outer thighs. The pelvis is heavy. The groins, left hip, right hip. Left glute, right glute. The whole pelvis is really heavy. And then the torso is so supported by the mat or the bolster beneath you. Lower back, middle back, upper back is heavy. The lower abs, the upper abs, diaphragm is relaxed. Ribs and all the intercostal muscles in between your ribs are completely soft as you relax on your mat. The hands and fingers are heavy. The wrists are heavy. Your forearms, elbows, upper arms, really heavy. Your shoulder blades, your shoulders, your collarbones, heavy, supported by the mat beneath you. The neck is relaxed, throat is soft, and the head, completely supported by the mat or the bolster, is heavy. Your whole body laid on your mat heavy, free from tension, totally relaxed. Then when you're ready, start to think about moving. Maybe just wiggling your fingers and your toes, or rolling the head from side to side, or maybe making a bigger movement. Move your body in whatever way it wants to move, and then very gently either roll over onto your side and come up to seated, or stay exactly where you are and enjoy your Savasana for a bit longer. Thank you for joining me this evening. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you on your mats again soon.